Everybody, I'm so excited. I have Mark Gambale here today, and I said his name right. So I already feel like I'm a high achiever in this situation. And yeah, it's just, I mean, he's just mind blowing. When we talk about mind blowing, his stories that are just out of this world, founders. This is the Founders Path podcast. So, we're going to talk about how founders can navigate the twists and turns, bootstrapping, getting funding, anything that comes to mind so that you can win, basically. I don't know what else. My little infomercial with whatever. Anyways, I'm so excited, Mark, to have you on today. It has been such a pleasure. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh, Valerie, it's amazing to be here. You and I have had several conversations and already met other great people. You introduced me to Dave Miller, who's awesome.
Yeah.
It's just great to meet high quality people that get it in the founder space and get it in the purpose space.
And I love that you said the purpose space. And Dave Miller definitely has purpose, and we'll talk about that later in the show. But mostly in this, you've had this fabulous history. And I'm not going to have you go down this big rabbit hole. When I was like 2 years old, my mom kicked me out, whatever that kind of thing is. But most founders do just struggle with getting past the cash flow issue of, honestly, what is it, like 86% fail due to cash flow, and it's primarily due to marketing, sales, promotion, whatever you want to call it. And I think in some cases too, underfunding, because they just don't understand the burn of how fast they go through cash to get going. And I'm not going to say to bootstrap, not to bootstrap. This is really your show that I want to showcase. But what are some of the things that you would kind of tell founders? Don't do this, don't do that. Yeah, that kind of thing.
How much time do we have today?
They might all start snoozing if we go way long. But yes, I know there's like an entire framework, and they should actually be calling you and saying, okay, how do I actually do this? Because I know you can't put your entire IP in a few seconds, but maybe a few highlights.
You hit upon something really fascinating that I love, which is the founder's runway. Founder's runway is the amount of cash flow that you have coming in that's going to have you take off. It's not your burn rate. It's completely the opposite of what you think.
Yeah.
Unless you've made $1 million, $1 trillion, $1 billion funnel, whatever your starting point is, you're not going to take off. I've been in companies where I've lost millions of dollars because the IPO didn't work and the market tanked. 2001 with the dot-com bubble. I was 2 days away from being a millionaire. I talked to you about my Jeff Bezos story. It was insane, absolutely insane. But that's happened 3 times in my life.
Yeah.
And I've decided it's not going to happen again. Finally, I've figured out what I want to figure out. And I love sharing that with other people because
Yeah.
when you lose 3 million, you go, all right, there's this guy named Mr. TEDx, Grant Cardone. Did you see the show where they dropped him in to like the Arizona desert with $100?
Uh-huh.
And he was filmed, and they said he was competing against two other entrepreneurs. And the goal was to figure out who could make the most money in 30 days.
Yeah.
He destroyed everybody else, and he got to like $1 million in 30 days or something insane like that. That is exponential mindset growth.
Yeah.
Scaling is lame, and it's for, I don't like to use the word sissies, but it's a rhyme. If you want to show up to the same place as everyone else, hop on the green line or the red line in Boston and bounce between Harvard and MIT. If you think the way everybody else does at Harvard and MIT, you're all going to arrive at the same spot.
Yes, you are.
I went to I went to Babson. I tried out classes at Harvard and MIT, just testing them, walking in, listening to the professors. They're great at this kind of thinking. Entrepreneurs are great at this kind of thinking.
Yes, I agree.
And
And
so I,
if you're just listening, he's doing a broader.
yes, it's basically divergent, which
Yes.
is hands wide open, parallel, and then convergent.
Yeah.
If you want to go to a regular business school and just get a finance degree or an accounting degree, go to a one that has the parallel approach that keeps you in the box. If you
Keeps
want to
you.
make exponential growth, go to Babson. It's the number one entrepreneurship school in America 28, 29 years in a row.
Wow.
So thankful that I went there because I learned about exponential profitable growth for businesses. The biggest ROI in my life was going there.
That's great. That's great. I think you touched on something very interesting about the divergent and in the box. And it reminds me of a Star Trek episode that I wrote back in the 90s, and these latest stuff with AI. And I always laugh about it. And I'm like, everything I learned about prompting was in the 70s with, with, with computer, blah, 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 and I kind of laughed at, all these products, these agents and everything else that are coming out that are so, to me, they're not a business, but you know, at the end of the day, there's tons of them and it's creating a ton of noise. So thinking outside of the box or divergently, it's one of those things that if you can dream it, it can happen, but it doesn't always mean it should happen, right?
No, no, not at all. Oh, you're reminding me of a time when I worked at a company as a product manager. If you're listening and you're like, I'm an entrepreneur, if you haven't been a product manager, figure out what that really means first. I got
You don't
a,
mean it just means making sure.
oh, it's
Why
crazy.
don't
Like
you describe it?
a product manager doesn't mean you deserve or get engineers. You have to earn it. You have to earn the right to go to the CEO and say, hey, I need X devs, X architects, X engineers to build this thing. Well, what is the thing? Well, the thing is this. All right, well, why? Where is the proof that if we do this, we're going to get an ROI? And
Yeah.
this company was crazy. It had four other product managers,
Hmm.
and I was the brand new kid on the block. I was an associate product manager. I didn't deserve to be there in their minds because I wasn't a male nurse. It was a medical technology company, and they're like, "Hey,
Of
you
course it
got your
was.
MBA, but you need to go to school for 3, 4 more years and be a male nurse." I'm like, "Hey, I just survived the dot-com burst. Decided to finish my MBA in a year and a half. I lost $1 million in that. There's no way I'm becoming a male nurse."
Yeah.
And they said, "What's so special about you?" And I'm like, "Well, I was a software hardware analyst at Gartner, and my clients were Microsoft and Apple. Asked me about the future of SaaS in 1996. And I told them, if you want to be a hardware as a service, internet as a service, ecosystem as a service, here's what everyone else is doing. But if you're Apple, here's how to do it differently.
Hmm.
My boss came back from a 2 week vacation. She's like, what did Apple ask you? I'm like, oh, well, here's the report. Here's the answers to their questions, which I didn't know. So I had to ask the industry, what are you guys doing? When are you switching to SaaS and why? And Microsoft answers were amazing to hear.
Okay.
But it all comes down to ROI, like we said. So if you're a product manager and you go to the CEO and say, I'm going to do this, you have to deliver. Otherwise, next time you get zero engineers. If you're lucky enough to get them, if your track record sucks, are they going to give you another at bat? Maybe not if the other four product managers are killing it. So I was always competing against other PMs, having to do the best product pitch. And it wasn't until I was in front of a doctor who said, this is the way I dream it should be. You've got to launch this thing. It's going to send thousands of people home cancer free, not just patients. And by
Mm.
the way, we're going to buy five. And the Cleveland Clinic bought five, and everybody started to buy four or five at 50,000 a pop. This was
Wow.
crazy capital equipment stuff.
Yeah.
Imagine Nvidia charging 50,000 a chip. I don't even know what they charge,
Yeah,
but imagine being able
exactly.
to do that. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It is crazy. And for the founders, it's funny because I was just, I was revamping my website and I was,
Yeah.
um,
I love it. It's beautiful.
oh, thank you. I'm a tech junkie at heart, and I'll give a plug to lovable.dev because
Yes.
I just recreated WordPress in Lovable.
That's smart. I love it.
But it was, I think there's this sort of if we build it, people will come attitude. And I've dealt with that in cyber risk as well. When you deal with technical people, they do this sort of feature benefit versus value driven type of scenarios. And when I was in healthcare middleware, we won. DST Financial at the time had DST Health, and then PBMI Awards. Those are pharmacy benefit management companies, and it was all based on the Thrive campaign. Really, honestly, what ended up happening is they were like the Amazon fulfillment center for Kaiser, and we could duplicate that use case because you had all sorts of metrics at the time because they were at the time, the ACO organization to watch, right? And everything was based on returns. I mean, any kind of marketing, they had their population care management, and it was all social determinants and cultural language of choice in the state that they were in, and all of these things. And it would drive people to prevent, and so they lived happier lives because they were preventing, but it also saved on the payer side of the fence because they're both right. And they could cure, if they prevented colorectal cancer, it was it it was curable if it was early detected at like 92%, right? And so they had these care journals, and a lot of the big PBMs were looking at something very similar because they were the middleman for the pharmacy. And what was kind of crazy in that was it really was the roots in what I call product for stage gate processes, right? And you fast forward, when I was in heavy equipment manufacturing, we cut Volvo's stage gate to from 5 years. When you're doing big equipment that's expensive, your stage gate process for product and everything else, it's like it's ginormous time, right? So we cut it to 2.5 years just because we were a smaller and nimble company. But I remember the the CEO doing the same thing. I bring it in. I'm commercializing the entire thing, right? And
Yes.
it starts an entire division and and I'm doing the 5 year financial modeling for the return on investment. And we have the plan down, literally have the plan down, that unless, like you said, something major happens, and I have survived something like you have, um, we got the plan down, and he's an engineer, and he's like slamming his fist on there. We've gone back and forth, and I'm asking the guy, I'm like, what more do you need? This is how much revenue, this is how much profit. I mean, we got it down to EBITDA, we got it down to who is where, when, how, what, prove the entire case. And he goes, I just need to know at 100% that this will happen. And I just went, like, I could not have crossed I mean, I said, if you want a crystal ball, otherwise we're done. And on my beautiful new website, it was the same. It's the stage gate processes. I don't care if you're rolling up private equity firms or rolling up businesses, whether you're starting a new business, whatever the heck it is. And I just launched this nice little tool and framework for the same thing that we're talking about. And it was it was pretty fun to hear you talk about that. So
Oh, wow.
you get into that a little bit more.
You
I can
brought
see
me
you're just
back.
like
You brought me back to stage gate. I haven't heard that in forever
that's
because
really
it was weird because the company that I joined was like, we're stage gate here. I'm like, well, what do you mean? They're like, well, we're going to do this. We're going to invent it, go through all these steps and launch it. And this is
yeah.
in my interview process. I asked them about their process. And they were like, well, we can't hire you because you're not a male nurse. And I said, what's your process? Well, here's what we do. How'd that go for you? Well, we were number one in this. We were number one in that. We were number one in this. I'm like, wait, were? What happened? Oh, we launched it. Everybody loved it. Our competitors saw it and they improved and they leapt over us. They beat our patents, so we forgot to patent it. I'm like, whoa, do
Yeah.
I even want to work here?
Yep.
And I said, all right, guys, what's the value in becoming number one in something and staying number one? Like you said, and making a whole new division. They're like, ah, you're hired. Nobody here does that and thinks like that.
Yeah.
So I don't care about the male nurse thing. You sound like an entrepreneur. Maybe we need one of those guys here.
Yep.
They gave me zero products in terms of devs. I had products that kept the lights on, but they're like, hey, your stuff's great. It's 80% margins. Nothing's wrong. Just hang at your desk and pretend like you're working. I'm like, this is a sucky job. Should I leave?
What?
It was so weird. And the training process freaked me out. My boss, I'll call him Tom. Tom's like, hey, you're going into sales training first with all the new reps, which means you're going to get trained on all our products. You need to be the top rep in the class, highest scores on the final. If you don't graduate and beat everybody else, I'm not so sure there's a spot on your team, on my team.
Oh wow.
Freaked me out. I had like an hour drive from South Boston, which we called Southie. Oh, so my
Okay.
accent come out there, South Boston. Oh,
Yeah, you got it. It's just Boston.
so it came out. I had to drive an hour to Billerica to get there.
He's in
And
Colorado now, I think.
well,
That's why he's lost it.
I know. Well, it was trained out of me. My company that I was working at said everybody needs to have zero accent because CNN's going to call you. You'll be on TV. Nobody wants to hear the Boston or the New York or whatever
Mm.
accent you have. So they coached me out of it. I miss it. It comes back though when I visit
When you visit,
or when
yeah.
I talk to people with other fun accents.
I
And
have people ask me because I live globally. People will ask me, they'll say, I'll try to guess where you're from. And I'm like, nope. Anyways, you were
yes.
telling the story. We
Oh no.
digressed.
So I bounce between Colorado and Green Bay these days. So in Green Bay, it's, get your bag. Did you put your boots in the bag? It's
Yes.
awesome. You betcha is like in nearly every sentence. And it's fun.
You betcha.
You
Oh,
bet.
that sounds like the Wisconsin groups of Wisconsin.
Yes. Yeah. So that company was amazing. I was finishing my degree at Babson and they were talking about daily stand-ups.
Mhm.
And you would basically, in the first 3 minutes, they'd go, all right, say what's going great. What did you just finish that's awesome for the project?
Yeah.
And then where are you struggling? Where do you need some help from somebody else on the team? And then you had a couple minutes for that. And then it was, what's the after party? Where do we need to just put big brains in on a mastermind? And so I brought that into the company and I looked at R&D and I said, you guys are downstairs and product and marketing are upstairs.
Yep.
I want my engineers to sit with me and we're going to build a pod. They're like, wait, you can't move the engineers. I'm like, we're not doing the project if they won't move.
Yeah.
And I built a literal pod where we hung out, we sat, and we worked with each other each day, and we iterated. And
Mm.
when They gave me my first engineering team, which was so hard. The CEO of the company, I'll call him David. David's like, there's no way I'm giving a brand new product manager devs. You're going to mess it up. I'm
Yeah.
like, what do you mean? He's like, well, we launch stuff. It's late. It never hits the revenue number. We have to redo it. Our competitors see it. And they copy the crap out of us. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, we're going to lose 90% of our 90% share in 6 months because our product is now illegal to sell. The component, the medical device buyers see that latex is an allergen. So we're out of business. And I gave them a paper from the buyers, the purchasing agents that said, do you have a replacement for this product? We'd like to buy it. If not, we're going to cancel you.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
showed it to David or Tom or whatever name, because I can't use his name.
Hmm.
I said, hey, are you going to bet against the market? Forget about me. I just sit in the corner.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm going to give you some engineers. They're going to be brand new. And I said, fine. They're going to sit upstairs with me. And he said, here's your launch date. I said, no, I give you the launch date. The team gives you the launch date. All we have to do is hit our revenue number and we have to launch on time. He's like, all right, you got a deal. And if you don't hit it, I'm taking the engineers away. We launched a week ahead of schedule. 9 out of 10 nurses loved our product over the
Awesome.
competitor. We built in a secret scent that the GI nurses loved.
That's awesome.
And from there, anytime I went to pitch a product, I already had a reputation. If I put $1 in Mark, he's going to give me two.
Yeah.
If I put $2 in Mark, he's going to give me four. So I kept adding up the math, but then I went crazy on them and I gave them a hardware system. And they said, we don't sell hardware here. It's like, what do you mean? They're like, we give it away for free and we tie it to the contract. We invented hardware here, but it got too hard to sell and it got competitive. My price will be higher than the competitors. Our gross profit margins will be 65% on the hardware. And they looked at me just like they looked at you. Where's the guarantee?
Where's the guarantee?
Where's the guarantee? Again, you're still new here. You've already brought in millions, but this is different.
Yeah.
We have to buy all this capital equipment and it might sit in the warehouse and rot.
Yeah.
Oh, I had to have one of those business plans that was like, if this happens, we do this. If this happens, we do that.
Yep.
Sensitivity analysis, everything.
Yep. Risk everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So I met with everyone, asked them what they needed. I gave it to them. They stamped the approval. I went to the regulatory team and I said, we need the FDA to say this. And they said, no, we got to do it differently. We'll do one little step so the FDA approves this, and then one little step for that, and one little step for this. I was like, no, this is a package solution. We're sending people home without cancer. You don't do that in a dinky way. We're
Yeah.
applying for the whole system at once.
Yeah.
And the regulatory people were like, okay, fine, we'll do it that way. They did it. And when we launched it, I had it underneath this blue apron. And I said, everybody, here's a video. This is proof that this product works in the number one doctor in America that handles the mess ups that the other GI doctors did. So if they can't go down the esophagus or cut out the cancer, they go to this guy. So he's like Better Call Saul kind of person,
Yeah.
but for GI. So I bring my unit to him,
Uh-huh.
a demo unit. I'll call it a maximum value unit, not a minimum value. MVP is misunderstood by 90% of the people out there. You talked about if you build it, they will come.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's
No.
not the way it works.
Yep.
And I brought the system in there and I looked at the doctor and I said, hey, today we're not using this on a live person. I'm just going to show you this on a piece of chicken. It's on ice. I'll show you
Mm-hmm.
later. He's like, I want to see it now. So I showed it to him. He's like, that's interesting. Not as cool as my product. I won't use it. I'll never buy it. No problem. He's like, and let me show you what I do. He showed me his system. He put the scope down the patient's throat. There was cancer everywhere and he couldn't get through, and he used that product and it failed. And he got all frustrated, and it felt to me like he kicked it against the wall. And he's like, Mark, can you hand me your product? Okay, it's not FDA approved, it's approved in Europe, just so you know. Disclaimer. He's like, disclaimer, I'm the doctor and I run the
Yeah.
room. Great, your room, your patient. Let me help. I had
Mhm.
to put on gloves, whatever else. And I plugged the camera into the back of the endoscope and I said, do you mind if we record this? He recorded it. He used the product. He stepped on the pedal and he looked at me. He's like, this is the way I dreamed it should be.
Yeah.
Damn. So I showed that video to the sales reps and I said, this is the number one doctor in America. This is what he said about our product. Here's BMW Series 6 keys. Whoever sells the most gets this car. The CEO of the company has a Series 7. You guys get the 6. The number one rep gets it. And they're like, whoa, usually you just give us like a few $1,000.
Yeah.
No, you're getting a car. Man, they love that contest.
Like that they did. That is, and in healthcare, a lot of times it was prizes that big. It's so interesting because you've kind of described, first of all, they were doing stage gate, and it sounds like their first stage wasn't the stage that I would typically do, which is kind of what you did naturally, which is we start with Shark Tanks or ideation sessions before, and we don't even get past that gate till we've done some market validation, et cetera. Because in physical product, it's very expensive to miss. It's not just it's a lot, right? Technology, you can do that a little faster, when it's software technology, AI, all of those things, you can get through those a lot faster. But I feel like the principles are very, very similar because, and one of the things that we did, and I was actually doing huddles, and I said, that's fine if we're going to develop a new product. Well, I was in to help grow their business. And I'm like, first things first, if you're pivoting, which you're going to have to because of the age of the company, right? If you're pivoting, you are going to need to come up with some new products for the pivot. There's no, you just putting in little band-aid on the existing product. You can only go so far with messaging and everything else. You're going to have to develop some new products. So we've got to set a system and process in play to keep all your products and new ones refreshed and constantly coming out, because I think a lot of times founders forget that they have to continuously iterate. They can't go, I've got this widget, here's Apple, we won, don't do anything else after that, right? And it's like, no, good to graders, you're good to great because you're iterating all the time, right? And when we were working that, we did so much market like questions to the market, asking the customers what they want, why it's a problem, how they want it, before we even designed anything. I'm out on these heavy sites and I'm measuring how much time it takes for some, trying to find any angle
Yes.
whatsoever. And I wasn't a product manager. I'm like, okay, I can't get this company off the ground unless we can find something that could be better, stronger, happier. It could be down to air conditioning under their seat. You kind of think about those things. And so we wouldn't even let it get past stage one without marketing, sales. I pull in marketing, sales team, ask their questions because they're talking to the customers all the time. You pull in, you pull in all the engineers on a consistent, and it's a pod. And if you don't have that pod set up where they work together, you get an engineer that thinks this is awesome, but they won't talk to the customer. And they won't test. And testing, how many products get thrown out because ahead of time before you lose them, but before you've lost so much money, but how many have actually made it through because they didn't really, it's just like, I got a great idea. And you listen to, sometimes one of them was saying to me, sales is saying we've got to have this. And I said, well, how many times and how many customers have said that they've got to have that, because that just might be a salesman saying we gotta have
Oh,
this.
yes.
I
That's
touched on a nerve. There you go.
You touched on something crazy awesome. You talk about Volvo. I worked at this really, really big company that has Volvo as a client, and they do crazy logistics of tracking people, places, and things. And they're a massive
Yeah.
offshoot of Hewlett Packard. Hewlett Packard invented GPS and thought, it's nothing. We'll just give it to this other group. And a group within the company bought it out and spun it off and made this company.
Yeah.
And when I got there as a product manager, they hadn't had a hardware product manager in 2 years. They're like, oh, we're so glad you're here. I'm like, oh, okay, no problem. Good to be here. And they're like, you're going to sit here, but your engineers are in San Francisco, in Silicon Valley, basically in Cupertino near Apple. And they're like, even though you sit in Colorado, every day you're going to put on the headset and Google Meet everybody. I'm like, well, what's Google Meet? And this was 2017. And because I was a med device product manager, we didn't do Google Meets. We put on suits, saw doctors and nurses, and that was it. There was
Yep.
none of that stuff. They're like, yeah, you're going to sit here. We're going to watch when you show up. We're going to watch when you leave, and we're going to do a butts and seats check mark every day.
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, that's different. I guess I can sit down. I'll go on a walking treadmill too. But it was weird. They said we have a 2 year backlog and we need you to manage the backlog.
Mm.
So I asked them one question: what is the value of the backlog? And
Mm.
they looked at me
Good
like, well, we don't know
questions.
the value. Okay, what if we just built it all right now and we delivered it? How much revenue would we get? Uh, zero. Why zero? Well, we're 2 years behind everybody. So if we build all this stuff, we'll have caught up. I'm like, okay, we need to do a different.
Timeliness.
What's that?
Timeliness.
Yes. So I looked around and I said, all right, so what gives here? Why are we 2 years behind? Well, we used to be number one. We were doing great, and this bigger company bought us.
Mm.
Okay, what happened? Well, it was great until they told us innovation needed to happen a different way.
Oh my
What do
gosh.
you mean? Well, we didn't get together, we didn't have parties, we didn't do things with patents. We started to get in this box. I'm like, who put you in the box? And they gave me the name of the guy. They're like, that guy in the corner did it. I'm like, oh, really? Why? Well, that's just his approach. That's what the big company does.
Oh my gosh.
Amazon doesn't do this. When they buy an ecosystem company and they plug it in, they let Whole Foods stay as Whole Foods. The
Yeah.
Ring Company is still the Ring Company. Nothing's changed. It's gotten better. Whole
Yeah.
Foods didn't go down in value, it went up. They lowered the prices, they made it a better customer experience.
Yeah.
The Prime doorbell got even better. Some companies are great at acquisition and development, and some are not as great. They haven't figured out how to do it.
We got to
And
make you all fit our that's the whole oh, Ed Catmull's book. Oh crud. You know who Ed Catmull is, right?
no, remind me.
Pixar.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Pixar, and when Disney was trying to buy at that time, but Ed Catmull, he talks about how Disney tried to integrate Pixar, and it just like destroyed the teams at the time. And funny, oddly enough, I read the Disney version, you know, of
Yes.
that side of the fence, and they did bring in their current CEO for right now for that integration later, and it actually worked because they let Pixar be Pixar because Disney did it this way, you know, and it was and and he talks about, you know, ideation in a way that people don't really think of ideation. You know, it's we got to find something. We've got to find, like you said, the divergent. We've got to find something that the market will buy. So everybody start thinking. Have a good day. Oh, but it has to be in this bound, and it has to be in this way, and in this box. And oh, that's right. MIT, it's always done this way. Well, maybe you might start thinking, if everything is AI right now, then maybe everything needs to be human right now. I mean, it's like, how do you actually think out of that? I should introduce you to a guy named Brian Matamore. He does ideation like nobody's business, and it is fun. He just does seminars to get people thinking, not to do, I brought him in to companies to get them to start to think and fill up their ideation box, right? Not to necessarily run it end to end,
Oh,
but there's
yes.
techniques to getting people to just notice how many times they put lotion on. I told one of the sales team, I was like, if somebody would invent customized lotion, it would save me 50, it would save me, I think I counted it, it would save me like 300 minutes a year. 300 minutes to me is a lot, right? So why
Yes.
would you not think, okay, this is just do the we feel kind of thing, and get people thinking like fluidly about, well, does this bother me enough, and why and how, but
Yes.
awesome.
Oh, you touched on a massive nerve there. And it kind of relates to this full cycle of founders.
Yeah.
As a founder, you're wearing a crap ton of hats, all really high or all around you. And it's kind of like Alice in Wonderland, where there's the Mad Hatter and all these people sitting around the table. Everything seems bizarre. And Alice is sitting there as the product manager going, this place is weird. How do I pull everybody together? And then you see the rabbit go down the hole. The product manager's job is to get everybody aligned and focused and out of their seats in divergent thinking. And so I actually took those engineers on a field trip, and I had to ask for a permission slip with the director of R&D. It's like, I'm taking them out of the building. He's like, where? I'm like, here's the consent
Permissions.
form. We're going to go see a doctor in the hospital, and we're going to walk in with suits and ask questions. What questions are you going to ask? The engineers can ask whatever questions that they like. They're going to pre-plan them, organize them, and then say, Dr. So-and-so, what do you do when this bad thing happens? Oh, I don't have an answer for that. Well, what do you think you would do? Well, usually I use this, but then it fails, and the patient dies. Okay, that's an extreme example. Usually they just go this, and that, and it would be nice if this happened. So the engineers start to go, wait, if we made something like this and it actually worked, would you actually buy it? Or are we just listening to one idea from you and you think your idea is amazing? Because every doctor thinks their idea is amazing too. They went to doctor school and they also go, some of them get their MBAs and they think, wow, I can slay it now that I've got 2 degrees. I'm twice as smart.
I'm smart.
No, you're not. You're in debt.
You're in debt. And you have a lot of IQ, maybe.
Yes. And no knock against doctors with MBAs. In fact, they're some of the most successful people because then they
Yeah.
go, oh, business is a discipline. It's a practice and it has principles. But
Yes.
it depends on the principles that you apply. You apply the ones you've talked about and I've talked about, ideation labs are great. So if you're founder listening in, find an ideation lab consultant and get your product manager, your PMM certificate. So, how to manage a project.
Yeah.
Combine those together, and then you'll figure out here's the real value. This is the market saying it's yes. And here's how to launch it and get it launched early and charge a premium price for it. And don't launch your product and go, hey, this is MVP. It's free. We want to test it out. No, I ask people to pay for pilots,
Yes.
paid
Always
pilots.
ask for a paid pilot. Because if
And
they're not willing to pay for it, they don't believe in it to begin with. So, that's, and I love that you brought up ideation sessions. That's uh something that is very key. And if you have an ecosystem of ideation, you have those on recurring basis. And a lot of times we would fly in customers for ideation sessions and have them come up with the ideas. And they would literally, like, you would have like bring them into hotels. And I know a lot of founders go, well, I don't have that kind of money. You can do those sessions online. You can give them, a lot of people are really great at giving feedback, and they're happy to trade a few things if you're not at revenue or you don't have funding, because some of these companies we're talking about obviously are at revenue and have funding. But yeah, and they really love to help. Customers love to help. They love to share their ideas.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that. I'll call it a hack because at that one company, we had a budget of like 65K for flying people in and doing these ideation sessions and saying, here's all the products that we're thinking of building. Here's all the prototypes. Mess around, break it,
Yeah.
and then tell us what you think. And we had to sign contracts with the doctors that say, you're a paid consultant and this is the official business.
Yeah.
There's so many anti-corruption rules in medtech. It's insane.
Oh yeah.
And the company that I worked at was on the panel for building these policies. It was called AdvaMed. So if anyone hasn't heard of AdvaMed, whatever industry you're in, find the people that write the protocols, the rules, the standards, and do the certifications. Get to know them, build relationships, and understand why these stinking, annoying standards exist. Because if you don't know about these rules, you're going to get punched in the face. The FDA is going to show up and give you something called a 403 or something like that,
Yeah.
which is stop selling all your crap. We're going to lock the doors and we're going to write an email to everyone that says, don't buy your product.
Yeah.
You don't want one of these letters.
No, you
It's
don't
the
want one
kiss
of
of
those
death.
after you've built it too.
I almost had a product recall. It was so scary.
Mm,
And when it happened, I got a call from the rep,
mm-hmm.
and I'll call him Andy. Andy's like, hey, your product just fell apart and it fell on the floor, and the patient's sample bounced out of the container, and I don't know where it is. Wait, what? Oh, yeah, it fell apart completely. It just bounced all around. But, you know, I talked to the doctors and nurses, and they were like, don't worry. We knew that area was benign, not a big deal. And he's like, yeah, I don't think it was attached right. He had great rapport with them, but
Yeah.
they just bought 16,000 units.
Oh my gosh.
And it was a massive IDN. And if you don't know what an IDN is, it's an integrated delivery network. So imagine 50 or 500 hospitals all working together to buy a lot of product at a low price.
Yeah.
So imagine doing a deal with Google and
Kind of like
then,
healthcare with Costco.
yeah, exactly. You're doing a deal with a massive player and your
Yeah.
product just fell apart.
Oh my
How
gosh.
many seconds do you have to fix it before they burn you for forever?
For a half, maybe not even that, a Milla.
Oh man. So I'm like, Andy, here's my FedEx number. Grab it, put it in this pouch, give it to me. First AM. I'm going to drive in from South Boston, Southeast, like we said before. I'm going to be sitting outside waiting for the FedEx guy to hand it to me. I brought all my engineers, to use your word, in a huddle. I said, boys and girls, we have a problem. This thing just fell apart. I don't know how or why. Let's study it. They studied it, they measured it, they thought about it. They're like, I don't know, it looks pretty good. And they're like, is the version that we sold different than this? I don't know. What could have been wrong? We called the manufacturer. They're like, oh, well, the version you saw didn't go through sterilization. Everything in the warehouse is sterilized. And then the engineers and I thought, well, what happens in sterilization? You heat the product up really high and you bake it for like hours.
Hmm.
to get rid of all the bacteria. So we're like, what
Yeah.
happens when you bake this thing? It expands and it resets.
Yep.
And they're like, yeah, we think it just fell apart because the tubing is wrong. Oh, crap. Our tubing's messed up? That's not good. They're like, no problem. We work at a tubing company. Call the corporate office. So I had the engineer, let's call him Kevin. And Kevin's like,
I won't remember all these names,
I
so
know.
you'll
So
Joe, Kevin, whatever.
Kevin pulls out the specs and he says, hey, this is the one to get. I think this is the great one. So he calls and he says the minimum order quantity is 15 miles of tubing. I'm like, no problem. Here's my credit card. Send it red overnight. They're like, it's going to be like well over 1,000 to ship it for shipping charges. I was like, I don't care. Send it. Told all the engineers, if this is the right tubing, we all need to put on gowns and masks and set up a manufacturing line in the building. And they're like, no problem. Everybody moved. They built a new manufacturing line. Within 2 days, we had all the certs, the documents, the inspections needed to take everything in that we shipped from our warehouse in Georgia up to Boston. We remanufactured it, overnighted it to the customer, swapped everything out, and our product was 10 times stronger than the competitive brand. And we took over that market.
That's
But we
awesome.
almost had a recall. And I looked at our regulatory consultant. I said, do we need to call the FDA about this? And she said, let's do a risk analysis and look at it and study it, document it, and prove that it's right to us. Because if the FDA comes in, it needs to be ethical and pass muster.
Yeah.
We have to feel amazing about this. Otherwise, we can't do wrong by the patient. So doctors get an oath. We have an oath. If we're profit first, we could kill a patient. So
Yeah.
patient first.
Patient first.
So
Yes.
we analyzed it. We we had the sales rep take the product in the inventory that was there and
Mm-hmm.
pause so they didn't use it. Hey, there's actually a new version coming out. This one's glow in the dark and it's like 10 times stronger. They're like, that
Yeah.
sounds cool.
Yeah. And they have
And
no idea.
they have no idea. 3 days
Yeah.
later, 4 days later, they get the new product. They're like, this is great. Thank you. You guys are fast. Yeah.
We guys are scared.
Yeah. Oh my God. That was my second product launch. I almost had an FDA recall. Freaked me out.
Oh, I bet it did. It reminds me of the book Great Game of Business, where I call it Nuns on the Run, where they had to get the tractors out, and they didn't know, and it was Detroit and the steel mills, and they were being picketed for steel, and they're like, okay, everybody on the line. How are we going to get steel in here? Because they're going to cancel the contracts, and it was like the company got together and they all said, well, nobody's going to bother school buses with people dressed up as nuns driving. So they got the steel in school buses dressed up as nuns. I always call it Nuns on the Run because I always think it's funny. It's like, I
That's
mean,
hilarious.
and they get very, very creative when you have to. But yeah, I there's so many things that people miss when it comes to end-to-end founders. We've talked about like healthcare and some of that. Some of you are tech, some of you are construction companies, some of you are cyber risks, some of you are dealing in AI. The principles, however, faster or slower depending on regulation, the principles are all the same. And I always like to boil this down. First of all, nothing should be done unless you can eventually, at the end of the day, see profitability on a financial statement. So it starts where
Yes.
it ends. and and it also, unless you've actually tested it, the ideas, the concepts, and that you can actually show that it will be profitable at the end of the day, it's either too early or it's too late. And I really like that you brought up the concept of the go to market part of that, because a lot of companies sit on something way too long and the competitor already hit. Plan on competitor response from the beginning, not the end. That's the risk. Somebody's going to come in and somebody's going to do something similar. Nothing, I'm a firm believer everything's been created. Even back in BC 100, I will say they had the technology to build an airplane. They just didn't know how at the time. Somebody hadn't thought of it, right? So at
Yeah, they
some
were missing the
point,
gas.
you introduce it. When you introduce a product into the marketplace, immediately expect competitor response. I love that you were talking about patents. I love, some don't want to get them, they get to market, but you know, you do need to keep everything very quiet until you have a layer of protection and you are hitting the market hard. Not like, let's dip our toe in the market once we launch. And because if it's a good concept, you're going to always end up with that competitor response on it. So anyway,
Yes, I'm glad you said that. And when you see the show Shark Tank, one of the things that they often ask is, what's your patent look like? Oh, we filed for multiple claims. This is what we've done. It's been issued. If the Shark Tank hears that there's no issuance and there's no revenue, they back away. They're like, this is already high risk.
yeah,
Where's your proof that I should even give you $1? And for that one company, that one product, the cancer removal system, I saw this product through the eyes of that doctor, that number one doctor in America. He's
yeah,
like, man, if you could make something that would deal with this situation when there's a flat lesion, I try to cut it out. There's a little bit that's there and I can't get at, but I don't know that I missed it. He's like, I published a paper on this. I'm like, I know, that's why I'm here. You're the thought leader. He's like, if you could make that, if you could resolve that, then everyone's going to buy from you. I'm like, oh, look at this prototype. He's like, oh, have you done a reimbursement study? I'm like, what's a reimbursement study? He's like,
yeah,
oh, when I'm done with this procedure, I'm going to bill everyone that I can. I'm like, who? Well, I'm going to bill the patient. I'm going to bill the insurance company. I'm going to do a facility fee. I'm doing this colonoscopy to save a person,
yeah,
but medical establishment does these colonoscopies to, it's scoping for dollars. They love it. Going
yeah,
in there, grabbing dollar bills,
yeah,
10s, 20s, 50s. If the $1,000 bill still existed,
yep,
they get all this money. So he's like, here's my advice. Do a reimbursement study, do a market analysis, look at the reimbursement codes. If this adds up, you've got patient benefit,
mm-hmm.
economic benefit to the patient, to the insurers and the hospital system. The hospitals are going to make a ton of money because they become centers of excellence. The insurance companies are going to
Yeah,
make a ton of money because they won't have to be paying for expensive colorectal cancer
uh-huh.
removal and end of life stuff.
Yeah,
He's like, just do the study. I'm like, I don't know how to do it. So I hired a third party expert,
okay,
paid them 20, 30, $40,000. And the company's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I think this is going to work. They came back with these goods. They're like, there's a hidden reimbursement code that you didn't know about. What is it? Oh, if you bill this one, and that one, you get 100% of this, 50% of this, and a third of this. I'm like, wait, let me just run the numbers. You mean that they're going to get 2,500 without it and 6,395 with it?
yep,
Oh, I just gave them a 2.5, 3x.
yep.
Ooh. So wait a minute. Can I go to procurement and the CFO in the hospital and show them this analysis? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Maybe I'll knock on procurement first.
yeah,
Maybe I'll knock on the head of GI first. And we had hired a panel of thought leaders around the US. You talk about these ideation groups,
yeah,
build an ideation group with the thought leaders, not the doctor from across the street or your friend. You want paid experts. who
Yeah.
will look you in the eye and say, this is brilliant or this is dumb. The market will love this or just I. One customer does not mean a market. It just
That's
means
true.
someone's shining you and giving you the, I think if
I like it because it fixed my one thing.
yeah, or they could be lying to you. Like I have people that have tried to sell to teachers or to
Yeah.
school systems. Teachers are great at going, this is beautiful. Good job. Keep going.
Yeah.
They're encouraging, but not critical. They know how to do it for students, but for
Because
business people,
Boston came out just then.
yeah. Which word?
Encouraging.
Yeah, that's funny. See, you're picking up on it. So you kind of see, I'm painting the picture for today's audience.
Yeah.
We did a patent infringement study as well on this. So we spent probably 75,000 on attorneys. We
Yeah.
spent 1 year on this.
Yeah.
Non-infringement, non-infringement, non-infringement. Patent study, patent study, patent study. Because the CEO of this big company in Utica, New York said, hey, clinical, ROI, that's good. Great margins, that's good. I don't want to get sued.
That's
Okay.
true. I don't want to get
Non-infringement
sued.
study.
Yeah.
That product was manufactured by a company in Germany that competed against another company in Germany who was the market share leader. So imagine little old OpenAI or little old NVIDIA going up against Intel.
Yeah.
When they started, Intel was this,
Oh
NVIDIA
yeah.
was barely on the radar.
Yeah.
So we did the infringement study. We figured out how to flip it. Within 3 years, we became the market share leader.
Wow.
You can win in hardware, you can win in software, but unless you use the right principles, you're going to be wasting the time of all your engineers, your sales, and your marketing, and that cash flow that you have a limited amount is going to sink and you'll never take off. If you don't do this right, your husband or wife or your whole family will go, what did you do today? And they'll go, I don't know. I went on some sales and marketing calls. All my campaigns are working. I feel busy. Unless your bank account is doing a busy thing growing in the right direction, you are doing nothing but scaling. You're wasting everyone's time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've lived it. I've made all the mistakes. Hopefully, I'm not hurting any feelings.
No, I mean and it's a similar principle when we were talking. I don't know if it was with you or somebody else, but I was talking about the early roots of SaaS. And the early roots of SaaS was definitely by customers. Basically, it's by customers, and there's this big to do about AI and how there's outcomes. And I was like, everybody should have been doing. SaaS is just a rent model. Everybody should have been doing a feasibility study, a cost study, and constantly watching all of that anyway. But we know SaaS was always built around gym memberships, so forget it, right? They're just going to forget it eventually, and we're just going to IPO and off we go, and somebody else's problem later. And all the knuckles are happening right now because of it. And monetizing is something that you brought up very important. You should be studying the different ways that you can monetize. Reimbursement is one of them, right? And because gosh, if I earn more, you're building mini businesses that earn more, they're happy. It's a win all the way around. So I really love what we talked about today. You are absolutely amazing. Where can people get actually a hold of you? Because they're going to want you. And I'm sure you're talking about fractional product dev and stuff like that. So, um, yeah, where can they get a hold of you?
The best way is to find me on LinkedIn. Mark Gambale. Think Da Vinci.
Yes.
Gambale. And the E is important because if you don't say it right, you will get a funny look when you're in Boston.
And I got a funny look when I first did it, but yeah, it
Yeah.
was like Italian. Put your Italian on and you're good.
And the way to find me is to go and check out a company called Close with One com. We just got the registered trademark for it. I really feel strongly about the value of a name of something.
Okay.
Anytime you launch a product, the name has to have a meaning. And close with one means when you talk to the buyer in that first conversation, they trust you, they like you, and they want to have a second meeting. When you do it so well, they ask you for the price, the packaging, and they say, when can I get it? If people aren't saying, when can I get it, you've messed up.
Oh, yeah.
Bottom line, Close with One teaches people how to do the sales piece, the marketing piece, the product dev piece, so that you actually create exponential wealth. So you can not have to sit at your desk all the time. You're not captive and slaves to your desk and to all these SaaS solutions, which are really passe. SaaS was created in 1967 by a nice MIT professor. The new version is models as a service. If you haven't heard about models as a service, look it up. It was invented in 2016. So
Right.
great to be with you today. Thank you.
Yeah, it is great. And then you have a charity that you were saying you wanted to push. We talked about Dave Miller and his pursuit pathways. And so go ahead and give your charity out that you wanted to shout out.
Thank you. This one's inspired by one of my daughters. We were at church one day. I'm in the 12th biggest church in America, which is kind of crazy, but to me, it feels like the smallest church in America.
Okay.
I'm in a small group, like a small men's group. And after service one day, one of my daughters looked at me and she's like, that foundation, I want to serve. I want to put on a bulletproof jacket, go into a place where there's human trafficking and break the boys and girls out. I'm like, wait, you want to wear SWAT team gear and like have guns? And she's like, yeah, these kids shouldn't be trafficked. I'm like, well, I'm not sending you in. You're 12-ish. Well, let me see if I can do something about it.
Okay.
And I found a payment company and a platform that every time somebody works with me, it's like that Bombas socks model. You buy a sock, brand new socks, somebody in the world, the third world place, gets socks. Same concept. We work
Nice.
with Close with One. We send money to aimfree.org.
Nice.
Aimfree.org finds the trafficking rings, breaks in the right way, brings everyone out safely, but the people that were keeping them captive go to jail and they stay there.
Nice.
There's lots of Epstein in the world. And
Yes,
guess
there are.
what? Aimfree.org breaks people back out. And Close with One teaches people how not to be captive to a system. So they are slaves to the system and they're exhausted and their friends and family never see you.
Yeah.
Remember the old 9 to 5 work experience?
Mm-hmm.
Bringing that back. And some people, maybe they want to work 35 hours a week like the French.
Yes. Yeah. I'm shooting for no more than 20 after a while. I'm in the middle of a startup and it's kind of like on that side of the fence, but yes, definitely. And I think that this has been a great show, you guys. If you want other topics or anything else on this show, go ahead and drop them in the DM. And this is another great episode. And I'm Valerie Cobb with the Founders Path podcast and the Impact VC. Check us out. Thank you so much.
People that were